Okay, so my videos are not as polished or as precise as some other guys with names like Jason and Steve. But what I want to do today is I want to do something that I haven't seen a lot of folks do, which is show you how to make an acoustic preset with the Helix Stadium. Let's dive in. Here we are on an empty preset, and we have our input number 1. I always turn on the gate, and I always lower the gate threshold to about 50, between 55 and 60. It's a little bit less critical probably with acoustic guitar because I don't really do distortion and things like that. Everything I'm going to do right now is a simple mono chain, although I'm going to put stereo reverbs at the end so that if you use headphones, it'll be a little bit less one-dimensional. I immediately am going to hit my save, and I'm going to name this preset. I'm going to save as new, give it a name. I'm going to say H, which is my initial of my first name, and this is going to probably be part of a set eventually when I finish it. So this is going to be mono acoustic guitar. Oh, that's too much. Let's just say AG. All right. So 6CH mono acoustic guitar. The very first thing I'm going to do, because you have so much processing in this box for an acoustic guitar chain, there's no reason not to do what I'm about to do. I'm going to actually add a 12-string effect. I think it works great. You notice that I'm going to keep hitting that save button constantly. It's just a good habit to be in. I generally don't lose any work because I'm so crazy that way. Now, you'll hear, right now it sounds awful because I have no processing. It's just the bare signal going through a 12-string effect. Now, I will say I turn the blend down, I lower the bass, and I raise the treble. You really want to adjust that to taste. And also, this automatically assigned that 12-string effect block right over here to number 1. I generally actually like this one on number 1, so I'm going to leave it there for now. I may move it somewhere else depending on how I feel later. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do what, in my opinion, is the secret sauce. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a cab IR, but this is not a cabinet IR. This is actually an impulse response of that I made from electronically, this is not a real guitar. There are a couple that I really like here. There's a small body and a big body. So I'm going to put the small body in here. There will be a link in the YouTube comments below what you're looking at right now, and that link will give you a way to download the IRs that I have made. The impulse responses I have made are always free. I do sell presets in Marketplace. I do for Stadium, for PodGo, for HX products. For Helix. I don't do it for Stadium yet because Stadium is not in any of the Marketplace stuff yet, but I will be doing that then. But even when I'm selling them, I always give my impulse responses away for free. Now, I always immediately set my low cut here to about 100. And then I'm going to set my level. I have discovered the sweet spot for mine is about 6. The sound you're hearing is a speaker in the room. It's a Power Cab 112 Plus. It's not going to be, it's just coming through this little mic here. So you're not going to get anything special. I'm not trying to show off the sounds. I'm just trying to show you how this is actually done right now. Let me move this lamp a little bit. That might be a little bit better. So there's a couple things I need to do. I'm turning off the 12 string, but what I want to do now is I always want to put this guy through some compression first. There's going to be some compression I add first to actually get the level where I need it. LA Studio Comp Mono. I'm immediately going to touch and hold this and hit clear stomp because I never want to turn that off. All right, so we're getting a little closer. getting a little closer to an acoustic guitar sound. The other thing I'm going to put in here, in every single preset, is I'm going to put in a parametric EQ. Again, I'm going to touch and hold this, and I'm going to clear stomp. Alternatively, if you want to, you can actually set the Stadium XL up so that it doesn't automatically assign your effects to a foot switch. The only problem with that is that most of the time I do want my effects on a foot switch, so I find it easier just to take them off as I go. Your mileage may vary. Do it whatever way works for you. So now I'm in here. I've got my LA Studio Comp. I use this at defaults most of the time. I don't know who came up with the default settings on here, but I find them to be perfect. So I almost never change them. I sometimes increase the gain. I sometimes change the peak reduction. I might change the mix, but generally, I even mess with enhance sometime, but it sounds very sweet. Other things that I want to do here, I know that after this, I'm going to want a volume pedal. So I put in my volume pedal. I'm saving again. One of the reasons that I don't mess with the default settings is that now the volume pedal, as you can see here, is automatically set up to be volume 2. So if the turquoise blue is up here, this is going to be blue. I don't use wah, so I'm not going to worry about that. For Stadium, I'm just going to use this for one thing. However, there's my volume. Now my volume pedal is after my compression. It's after my EQ, which you notice I haven't even adjusted yet, but we are going to do that in a moment. And the reason for that is if I put the volume pedal earlier in the chain, the compression affects it, and then the volume suddenly gets all the way loud because of the way the compressor works, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add one. There's one more little secret, not secret, but sweetener that I really like, which is this mic preamp, Studio Tube Pre. I'm going to add that. I always change it to line. I change the level to 10, and I have found that this works at about between 3.5 and 4.5. I don't know if you can hear the difference. It's not just a little bit louder. It also has a little bit of a more tone thing that it adds to acoustic that's really nice. A lot of guys like it on electric too, but I like it there. You'll notice that I left a little extra space here. That's because I'm going to do something very wacky with an IR. I'm going to actually take this guy and I am going to add another impulse response. And this impulse response is going to be what I call my big body. Now, I'm not going to run them in series like that because that's not really the way that I want it to work. I'm going to run them side by side, and now I am actually going to switch between them. Once I do this, I want to change this to 100, and then I want to take my level, and I want to make it -6. Is that what this was? Yes. Now, one of the things you can do is you can run 2 of these in stereo, and I actually am going to have some of those in my presets that will be available in Marketplace when Marketplace opens for Stadium. But right now, I'm just creating a mono, very simple but very capable, and it's going to have all kinds of effects and stuff. Very capable preset. And what I'm going to do is I want to change from the small body to the big body, those 2 different sounds. So I don't like to just turn one on and the other off. I find that doesn't work great. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to actually have A and B level. They are going to be controlled by a controller. And it's going to be, I'm going to put it right here. Oops, hit learn controller. There we go. Level to be 0, and that one, I'm actually going to reverse that. Nope, I'm going to reverse that because at minimum, I want this to be at 0. Now, on my B level, I'm going to learn controller with the same level. See how this has become multiple with 2 in parentheses? We're going to fix that in a minute. I want to fix this so that the max goes to 0 here. And you'll notice that this is just a little bit finicky, and I just don't think there's any way around it. The finickiness of this. If I'm within just a few of a decibel, I'm okay though. So what's going to happen now is when it's on minimum, that's my small body sound. When it's on maximum, it's a different sound. I don't know how much. I'm hoping that you can hear the difference, but trust me, they are different. So what happens next is I want to rename this. So I'm going to actually go to my. I'm sorry, I got to slow down here because I'm moving fast. Touch and hold this, and then I hit label and color. It's up to you how you do this. I always like to make sure that when I relabel a stomp, it's all caps, so that I can tell at a glance which ones are just the effect and which ones are something that I've done something with. And in this case, it's going to be called small / big, so that I know that when it's dim, it's small, and when it's bold, it's big. That's an impulse response block that I'm affecting, so I'm going to use the color for impulse response. Then I'm going to click done, and you'll notice now I got small and big. One thing that we might run into, and I'm not going to get this detailed because I already know from testing this earlier that I don't need to. If you switch between two different IRs, you might need two different EQ blocks because you might want to EQ them differently. I've already found that I really generally don't want to do that. So now that I'm here, there's one more thing that I want to do. And this is not something I do on every preset, but it's something that you want to do for this kind of work just so that you can adjust your EQs a little easier. Because EQ is the big thing. EQ is the secret sauce. I'm going to introduce a Mono Deluxe looper block. Save it now. Just put it in this middle guy. I never like it there. I like it wherever you want to put it, but I always like it in the upper right. So there, I've got it saved. The only thing is I need it first in the chain. All right. Normally I would be hitting ground and I'd have a really, really smooth loop. I'm not so concerned about that because I'm not performing right now since it's on the table. But now I have a loop playing. Gonna turn it down a little bit. Whoop. I have a light that if I have a wacky light that if I do something strange and put something underneath it, it turns down in intensity. It drives me crazy. Anybody wants to send me a new desk lamp to replace that? I'd be very happy. You can have this preset for free if you do that. Anyway, so I've got this thing playing, and the reason I have it playing is because I'm now going to mess with the parametric EQ, and rather than playing the guitar and turning knobs at the same time, I don't have to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to engage the low cut. You're probably saying to yourself, you already did that, didn't you? Yeah, but I like the sound. I like the tightening of the low end on the acoustic guitar when you do it twice. So this is the place that I do it. So I'm still going to do a 24 decibel per octave cut at about just a little bit lower than I did it there. Okay. Now, there are several bands here, and the new parametric EQ is wonderful. It has a low cut, it has a low shelf, which I don't use. It has a low band, which I do use. Everything I'm about to show you, if you don't know parametric EQ, I'm hoping will help you understand it better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to boost it a bunch. And I'm going to roll through the frequency. So now I boosted the frequency, and I'm going to roll through it. What I'm looking for where it sounds really bad in the low end. I'm trying to make it sound bad. And I don't know if you can hear it, but right there at about 199, it just sounds harsh. Now I'm going to leave that frequency, and instead of boosting it, I'm going to cut it. Not a lot. A lot of these impulse responses here, let me clean that up. These impulse responses really take care of a lot of the EQ problems of a piezo, but I still want to shape my sound. So back to this. So I've done my low. I found that it was about 200. Mid, again, your mileage may vary, but it's 2.7. It just is. When you boost the mid to look for the piezo quack, which is still coming through a little bit, and you float this around, there's just something coming out there that you don't want. And so that's the one that I am going to cut by about 2 dB. Okay, now the next thing is the high. I'm doing something a little different than I did with Helix because I had fewer bands. There's another harsh band in here, and we're going to find it now. So I'm going to boost this a bunch, and I'm going to travel around here. And if you want to, you can actually do it this way. You'll notice it's about double 2.7. That's where you're going to find it, because there's something harmonic going on there. This is just a band that I find I like to cut a little tiny bit. The only downside of this is that it can sometimes dull up a little bit. It can dullen the sound a little bit. However, I now have this high shelf. And the high shelf, I'm going to boost a little aggressively, 4 or 5 dB. There's also a high cut. I use that a lot on electric guitar. However, I don't really need it on acoustic because I want all that air up there. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit in case it comes out a little bit better. Save my preset, go out to my main. If you want to, by the way, you can see there's my curve. Pardon the little, you'll notice that flickering. It may not come out on video, but I think that they're going to fix that, but who cares? It's just a visual thing. But there's my EQ curve. Use that. You can see that in focus. Now listen. Again, I don't know how much this is gonna. You're gonna hear the difference here, but trust me, you're hearing something different. This is without the EQ, and this is with it. One more thing I want to say about EQ is that you'll notice I always have my EQ before my compression. That is because if you put the compression first, I don't know, it does something different. And I just generally tend to, I will sometimes put it before and sometimes after. I kind of like to shape my tone before I compress it. So now, so far, I got a guitar that can be small. It can be big. It can be a 12 string. You're starting to see that Helix Stadium XL is the very awesomest acoustic guitar preamp you could imagine. So, I mean, there's other products that can do this too. I find it easy to actually navigate everything I need to navigate with this. There's a couple other things that I like to do, and we're going to do them here. One of them is that I always like, I already know that I want to go to the next path. So I'm going to go to path 2A. So now, so that I can use both paths for the guitar. And the very last, or really second to last thing I want in the chain is a stereo dynamic ambience block. Now, it's up to you how you like this. I actually like the 12 meter room better. Everything else in terms of settings here is fine. I just like the about 27%. you don't really hear it in the room. However, when you have to play through headphones, this is going to make playing so much more pleasant. And if you're actually recording with this setup, I actually think a little tiny bit of ambience, stereo ambience, is really cool. So I generally will record that as well. I never turn this block off, so I'm going to touch and hold, and I'm going to clear stop so that no longer appears there. And now I'm saving. You'll notice I saved again. Sometimes I want a little more. So the last block in the chain is going to be my favorite, the stereo dynamic hall. Now, I do stereo just in case I hook up stereo. I make a lot of stereo presets because I play in stereo pretty often. But I absolutely always make them so that they collapse to mono. Every one of my presets I make sounds great in mono and also sounds good in stereo if it has any stereo effects. I do want to turn that hall on and off. So, but I don't want it there, so I hold these two at the same time. I hit yes swap, and whatever was here moved to there. If there had been something here, it would have moved to there. Way too much. I like it a little shorter. I like the medium-sized room. I like it a little darker. And I like it about 23, 24%, somewhere in there. I take my trails, I turn them on, because if I ever turn it off, I don't want it to end suddenly. A lot of people are fine right here. We're all done. However, I like to use effects on acoustic guitar, personally. The first thing that you're going to want, especially if you actually play with a looper, if you play over a looper, is you might want to boost. By the way, you'd want to move your looper in the chain if you do this, which we're going to do right now. So now that I have used the looper to do my EQ, I'm going to move it here after my volume pedal, so that if I play a loop, I can now mess with the sound. In fact, I'm going to actually put it after other things as well. This way I can change the sound. I can have the sound of the acoustic guitar be that I'm playing over a loop be different than the loop. So right now I could, for instance, play a loop with the small guitar. I could switch to the big and play over it with the big guitar and add 12 string. The hall reverb will be on all of it, and add other things that I'm going to add right now. The first one, let's tidy this up a little bit. I like to be tidy. Is going to be, I do very much like chorus on acoustic guitar, but people don't go overboard with it. Be very careful. The very best chorus in here for acoustic guitar is probably the Trinity chorus. It can be a little bright though. So I add the Trinity chorus. I'm going to move the assignment to the place that I want it. In fact, I'm going to switch these two assignments. And the reason I do that is because Trinity chorus and 12 string are the things that I'm going to change more often than small or big. And when I do want to go big, I want to be able to hit that right at the edge. So that's why I move it there. Problem here is it comes in very obnoxious. Can't stand it. I take the rate all the way down to 0.1. I take the depth way down. By the way, this is a stereo effect only, but it'll sound great in mono. And I will then take the mix to about 45%. Okay, I haven't put my boost in yet, but I'll show that to you in just a minute here. So that's the Trinity chorus. Again, I just like it. Not everybody likes it. I like delay with acoustic guitar. Like it a lot. But I want it, I sometimes want it after the looper. Sometimes want it before. It depends on what I'm doing with the looper. In this particular case, I'm going to actually set up the delays before the looper so that I can play with delay over something without delay. I do two delays, generally a short and a long, and they will be, I like the tape delay, I like the Adriatic delay, I like the vintage digital delay. My very favorite is the Cosmos delay, but I like to make sure I'm always using two different delays if I'm going to do two different sounds. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a Cosmos delay, which is right here. There's the Cosmos echo. By the way, it's up to you, but I actually have, I always move it because my delays are always in the same place. It doesn't matter where you put them. But when you go from preset to preset, make sure everything is in the same place. Because when it's not, then if your delay is on foot switch 3 on one preset and foot switch 7 on another, it's just too much thinking that you got to do while you should be thinking about the music that you are playing. So I'm putting that one there, and then I'm going to actually do something with that. I'm going to make it, this one is going to be my dotted eighth delay. I want headroom all the way up for acoustic guitar. I want trails on. I want dry through. I don't like that for electric guitar, but for acoustic guitar, I don't want the sound of the delay circuitry to actually be affecting it. I usually leave tone, bass, and treble alone on this. I kind of like it the way it's set. I'm putting this to head 3. I also like just a tiny little bit less flutter, and I like this at about, 39, 40%, maybe a little lower. All right, and there we have it. Right up here at the top, I want to make sure I know what I'm looking at. So I label my presets. I label my foot switches. So I'm going to label this. I'm going to make sure it's always green. And I'm going to call this, I say D/8, and then I'll say Cosmos. Now I know it's a dotted eighth Cosmos delay. I'm saving. I don't know if you can hear the hall reverb. It's just a really nice effect. It's especially nice in stereo if you ever have the opportunity to run stereo. Now, I'm going down here, and the other effect that I like, the other delay I like for acoustic is vintage digital. Again, I'm going to move it only because I always have my quarter note delay here and my short delay here. It's already set to quarter. Its feedback at a 23% is probably fine. I think I like the mix a little higher on this, probably about, let's turn them both on so I can hear them together. I like my bit depth all the way up, and I generally like right now it's the levels aren't where I want them, so I'm going to just fix that. My headroom's all the way up, my trails are on. Now I just want to make sure that my, you can hear that, if you can hear it, I hope you can hear it. The dotted eighth delay is a little quieter than the quarter inch. That's the way I want it, but I don't want that much difference. That's what I want right there. So now, a couple other things I really want. One of them is I want a boost. Now I always put my boost for electric guitar right on this foot switch right here. And so I put that there for acoustic, so I don't want to have to think about anything but music while I'm making music. So right now I've got I got this foot switch ready to go, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to add a block for boost. All I'm going to do is I'm going to boost the level that is coming out of one of my blocks that is leading up here. And there's a lot, you can do it, try it different ways. You might like it before the compressor. I like to make sure I know exactly what the difference is and it's happening at the compressor. So in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this guy. This is the level of the compressor. I'm going to learn controller. I'm going to push this button, and now it's learned the controller. Hasn't yet. I have to set those manually. So minimum is going to be 0. Let me show you the other way to do this because it's much more precise. Go in here to bypass control, and then you go to level, And this is where I can set this much, much easier. I want this to be about a 4 decibel increase to start. Okay. Let me show you how I got there again, just in case you missed it. The little 3-line, little hamburger menu, bypass control. It brings you to this screen, and now as long as you don't hit the home again, you can actually get to whatever you want to control anywhere in here. But now I've set it up so that it's not quite enough. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to 5.5. All right, that sounds like what I want. I can turn these off. I always, again, I want to make sure that I know what this is, and when it's default to the white circle, I don't know, I don't have a clue. I can't even guess which block it's affecting. So I'm actually going to hold my finger down. Again, I'm pressing, but I should show you again. I am touching but not pressing, and then I hit label and color. I hit yellow because this is one of the yellow blocks, and I'm just going to call it boost. It's weird that you have to hit cancel after you do that, but there's really no logical problem with it. There we go. Seems like we're done. If you're anything like me and you know you have CPU power and you know you have 2 buttons, you're not happy. So I start to think to myself, what other things can I do? And the next thing I think about, and I never did this before, but one of my favorite guitarists is a guy named Bruce Coburn. And if you're not a fan of Bruce Coburn, you're missing out. One of the best acoustic fingerstyle guitarists that I have ever heard. One of my favorite songwriters. He's been active for since 1969 or 1970 or something like that. And he uses tremolo a lot on acoustic guitar. And I've actually come to really appreciate that. But I want it before my delays, and you'll notice that I'm out of room. Fortunately, I can just move some blocks down. All right, and everything is still working because I set this up to go out from here and down to here, and I've got 2 more blocks. I'm going to go to one of my modulation effects. I have a particular favorite for both electric and acoustic, and that's harmonic tremolo. I just love it. I like it timed to triplets on the quarter note, and I don't want it that obnoxious. So what we're going to do first is we're going to, we could mess with the intensity. We can mess with the mix. Mix is where I'm going to start. Looks like I ended up at 60. But look, I have one more button. Well, I knew what I was going to put on here before I even started doing this video. Every now and then I like something really ambient. I like something that's out there in left field. So what I want to do here then is I want to actually add another block, which is going to be, it's also going to be stereo because it's near the end of the chain, just in case I connect. And it's going to be, I love the Ganymede block when you want to add some kind of just space. I'll tell you a secret on this. I generally don't want to, I don't want to have it after the other blocks. And if it's overwhelming, sometimes even lowering the mix isn't enough. So I only want it on when I'm really getting spacey. The only thing I also do know is that I don't like it on my, if I'm looping, I don't like it on my backing tracks. Now the problem that we're going to run into is the looper that I put in here was a mono looper. So now that I remember that, it's probably not going to allow, whoops, I had it on the right side. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have it set up correct. No, I don't want it. No, I don't. No, I don't. So I got to replace this looper with a stereo looper because it'll have that Ganymede that comes through. So now what I can do is I can actually loop without Ganymede, and then I can play over it with the extra Ganymede reverb. There's only one other thing, and this is another thing. It's a taste thing. I love reverbs after delays, but not this one. This one I want so that the delays are happening, but they're not going through the Ganymede reverb. So what we've done is we've created a preset that has a few fun effects that makes my sound like a small or a big guitar, can sound like a 12 string. I can add chorus to it. Beware of 12 string and chorus at the same time. I generally don't use them at the same time, and the reason that I don't is because it tends to really, really accentuate those upper frequencies. Just be careful of it. For finger picking, it's great, but for strumming, you're going to be in trouble. And of course, I got my tremolo. I can boost it. All right. That's it. I will make this available to anybody who wants it as soon as I can find a place to post it. And however, once I refine this isn't refined. I'll spend a lot more time on these than this. Once I've refined it, it'll be part of a set that's coming out for Stadium in Marketplace as soon as Marketplace has Stadium presets. But I hope this has been helpful to any of you folks who play acoustic guitar. This is a marvelous, marvelous device, just like Helix was, just like HX Stomp was, and even Pod Go. It's a marvelous device, not just for electric guitar, but also for acoustic guitar. I do have one thing I want to show you. One thing that I have changed from when I originally started using these. When I play live, not necessarily when I record, but when I play live, the final thing I like to change is on these impulse responses, I like just a little of the piezo pickup to come through. So I generally set these to 80% mix. I'm so glad I remembered to show you that, because that's just one thing that I just find is really useful. If I had more time on my hands, I'd go back and do this video again, but when you're spending 40 minutes and 38 seconds in front of two cameras, you're not going to do a whole lot of editing. You're just going to lay it out there. Hope this has been helpful. If you got this far, wow, I'm really proud of you. I hope that you actually sped up so that you didn't have to sit here for almost 41 minutes. But bless you, and go make some music.